This is the Business Blackbook, where billion-dollar empires are built and collapse. 3 seconds. That is all it takes. 3 seconds of your voice. A voicemail. A birthday video. A single sentence on a podcast. 3 seconds. And someone you have never met can become you. Not a copy. Not an impression. You. Your tone. Your cadence. Your pauses. Your warmth. And they used it to call your mother. $25 million. That is what one finance employee wired in a single afternoon after joining what appeared to be a completely normal video call with his company's CFO and 3 senior executives. Every single face on that screen was fake, not actors, not imposters sitting in costume. Artificial intelligence generated real-time deepfake video running on a laptop in a city halfway across the world. The money was gone before the real CFO even knew a meeting had taken place. Welcome to the AI Voice Scam Epidemic. Now, before you tell yourself that this is a story about tech companies and corporate boardrooms, stop. Because the same technology that stole $25 million from a Hong Kong finance firm is the same technology that made a 67-year-old grandmother in Ohio wire $3,000 to a person who sounded exactly like her grandson. The same technology is sitting right now in a free application that anyone on this planet can download in under 4 minutes. And it is being deployed thousands of times. Every single day. The question is not whether you know someone who will be targeted. The question is whether they will know what hit them before it is too late. For a long time, we thought we were safe. We had been told the rules. The grammar would be broken. The email would look slightly off. The phone number would be unrecognizable. The voice on the other end would have an accent that didn't quite fit. We mocked the Nigerian prince. We laughed at the IRS agent demanding iTunes gift cards. We congratulated ourselves on being too smart, too modern, too digitally literate to fall for something so obvious. And for a while, that confidence was earned. The fraud industry, for all its scale, was fundamentally clumsy. High volume, low quality, easily filtered, easily spotted. The kind of scam that worked on volume alone. Because if you sent 1 million badly written emails, statistically, someone somewhere would click. We built spam filters. We built caller ID. We built awareness campaigns with little animated videos about suspicious links. And we believed we were winning. Here is what no one told you about that era. The enemy was watching, taking notes, and waiting for a specific moment. That moment arrived, quietly, somewhere between 2022 and 2023. The moment large language models became not just powerful, but cheap, fast, accessible to anyone with a Wi-Fi connection and 20 minutes to spare. The moment the industrial machinery of deception got an upgrade it had never had before. And the rules, every single rule we thought protected us, became obsolete overnight. On page 47 of the ledger, we find a technique called synthetic identity fraud. Tier 3. The professionals inside the industry call it layered impersonation. We call it what it actually is. The perfect lie. Here's how it works. And pay very close attention, because understanding this machinery changes everything. Before a scammer ever contacts you, they already know you. Not in the vague sense of knowing your name. They know your employer. They know the name of your bank. They know your neighborhood, the approximate value of your home, the names of your children. In some cases, they know your scheduled appointments. How? Because your data is not private. It never was. It is sitting in leaked databases sold openly on the dark web for the price of a coffee. It is in your public social media profiles. It is in voter registration records that are legally purchasable in many American states. It is in the LinkedIn profile you updated last Tuesday. It is in the real estate listing that shows your home address and the year you bought your house. AI tools now scrape, aggregate, and cross-reference all of that data simultaneously, in seconds, for thousands of people at once. Before you receive a single message, you are already a file. A detailed, organized, weaponized file. Step 2. The message. Large language models do not just write fluent English. They write fluent anything. They write in the precise, formal register of your bank's fraud department. They know the exact phrasing. We have detected unusual activity on your account. Now we think you've been hacked. The disclaimer language. The callback procedures. The account number formats. The verification protocols. Researchers have tested this directly. In controlled studies, people shown AI-generated phishing emails rated them as more trustworthy than emails written by human scammers. More trustworthy. Read that again and let it settle. Step 3. The voice. This is where the story stops being about technology and starts being about something far more unsettling. Voice cloning technology has existed in professional settings for years. Film studios used it. Sound engineers used it. Defense researchers used it. It was expensive, complex, and required significant source material. That version of the technology is ancient history. Modern voice cloning tools can replicate a human voice from as little as 3 seconds of audio. 3 seconds. A voicemail you left your spouse. A video you posted celebrating your daughter's graduation. A single sentence from a podcast appearance. A comment you left on a YouTube video 3 years ago. Once that voice is cloned, it does not sit in a file somewhere waiting. It is fed into real-time voice-changing software that allows a criminal to have an entire live telephone conversation in your voice, right now, while you are sitting at your desk completely unaware. The grandparent scam used to require a young-sounding actor who could improvise under pressure. Now it requires nothing except a 4-second clip from your grandchild's last Instagram story. And the call that comes next, to your grandmother, is indistinguishable from the real thing. Step 4. The face. Deepfake video was, until very recently, a resource-intensive process. It required specialized hardware, significant processing time, and high-quality source material. Today it runs in real time on a standard consumer laptop. The Hong Kong case is not a one-off anomaly. It is the blueprint. Corporate finance teams are being convened on what appear to be completely normal video conferences, with people they recognize, voices they recognize, faces they recognize, and they are being instructed to move money. Every face on the screen, generated. Every voice on the call, synthetic. Every detail in the briefing, scraped from the company's own public filings. Step 5. The trigger. None of this works without the oldest ingredient in the history of fraud. Urgency. AI does not change urgency. It supercharges it. Because now the urgency arrives in a perfect voice, on a familiar face, in a message that references real details about your real life. Your son's real name. Your real bank, your real account type, your real city. The pressure does not feel manufactured because almost everything surrounding it is real, or real enough. The cracks here is what the industry does not want to say out loud. The global fraud industry is now measured in the hundreds of billions of dollars annually. To understand the scale of that number, it is larger than the GDP of most mid-sized nations. It exceeds the annual revenue of several of the world's largest technology companies. The profit margins are extraordinary because the cost of running an AI-powered scam campaign is almost nothing. A few software subscriptions, a cheap server, an afternoon of setup time, and it is professionalizing in ways that should genuinely alarm you. There are now fraud-as-a-service platforms. Actual commercial marketplaces where a person with no technical background can purchase everything they need. Scraped contact lists organized by demographic. AI writing tools pre-configured for specific types of financial fraud. Voice cloning services sold on a subscription basis. Deepfake video tools available for monthly fees less than a streaming platform. You do not need to be a criminal mastermind. You need to be reasonably organized on a laptop and have made the decision to do harm. That is it. Now here is the part of this story where the institutions we trust reveal what they knew and what they chose to do about it. Telecom companies carry millions of fraudulent calls every single day. Every call generates revenue. Fraudulent calls are revenue-generating calls. The financial incentive to aggressively filter fraud has historically been underwhelming. Data brokers legally harvest, package, and sell personal information on a scale that would be considered criminal in almost any other context. The industry is worth tens of billions of dollars annually. In most jurisdictions, it is entirely legal to purchase a detailed personal profile on any private citizen without their knowledge or consent. The raw material for AI-powered targeted fraud is commercially available from legitimate registered businesses operating in broad daylight. Social media platforms hold vast repositories of voice samples, video clips, and deeply personal behavioral data. They face minimal regulatory pressure to take responsibility for how that material is weaponized against their own users. And the financial system itself, the last line of defense, has, in many cases, decided that the defense is your problem. Here's how that works. In most AI fraud cases, the victim authorized the transaction. They were deceived into doing it. They were psychologically manipulated using technology that replicated the voice and face of people they trusted. But they pressed the button. And in many countries, under existing law, that authorization matters. The bank can say, "You moved the money voluntarily. You were deceived by a third party, not by us. You pressed the button." The case is closed. The betrayal moment. There was a man, late 60s, American Midwest, retired after 4 decades in the same industry, living alone after his wife passed away 18 months earlier. He received a phone call. It was his daughter's voice. He was certain of it. The cadence, the slight nervousness she always had when something went wrong. The way she said "Dad" at the beginning of difficult conversations. She told him she was in trouble overseas, that she needed money immediately, that she was too ashamed to have told him earlier. But now there was no other option. He did not hesitate. He liquidated a portion of his retirement savings. He wired the money through a channel she described. He sat by the phone for the rest of the afternoon, waiting for her call to confirm she was safe. His real daughter called that evening from her home 30 minutes away. She had no idea any of this had happened. He never recovered the money. He never reported it publicly. The shame of having been deceived in his most vulnerable moment, the shame of having been manipulated through his love for his own child, was too heavy. He told almost no one. That silence is part of the design. Because here is what the data shows about reported fraud losses in the United States alone. Experts broadly agree that reported figures, which already run into the tens of billions annually, represent only a fraction of what actually occurs. The shame of being deceived keeps most victims silent, and silence is the industry's greatest protection. But that is not even the part that should shake you most. The assumption we have all been carrying. The last remaining psychological defense most ordinary people possess against fraud is the idea of a trusted relationship. The belief that you can tell when someone you love is acting strangely, that you can feel when something is off, that the voice, the face, the specific emotional texture of a person you have known for years cannot be replicated. AI is being actively engineered to destroy that assumption. There is already documented evidence of what researchers call the long con. Automated AI systems that maintain ongoing text-based relationships with potential fraud victims. Not for hours, not for days, for weeks, sometimes months. Building trust, gathering information, waiting patiently for the precise emotional moment when the target is most vulnerable, then executing. The concept of a trusted relationship, the last thing we thought technology could not fake, is under direct, systematic assault. The collapse in 2024, reported losses to investment fraud alone in the United States exceeded $10 billion in a single year. That figure represented a 65% increase over the previous 3 years. Business email compromise. AI-assisted impersonation of executives to authorize wire transfers. Cost companies globally billions more. The Hong Kong deepfake case. $25 million. One video call. Every face synthetic. A finance worker at a UK energy company received a phone call from someone who sounded exactly like his CEO. The voice was warm, slightly hurried, completely convincing. He was instructed to authorize an urgent cross-border transfer. He did. The equivalent of $240,000 was gone within the hour. When he called his actual CEO back on the office line, the CEO had no idea what he was talking about. These are not isolated incidents. They are the visible fraction of something that is happening at massive scale in the dark. Younger adults aged 18 to 35 now report losing more money per incident than any other demographic. Not because they are less intelligent, because they transact more digitally, because their familiarity with technology creates a specific species of blind trust in its outputs. The person most likely to believe that a realistic-sounding phone call is legitimate is the person who grew up in a world where technology mostly worked and mostly told the truth. Small businesses are being devastated. A single successful business email compromise can bankrupt a company that took a decade to build. The legal recovery process, even in jurisdictions that have begun to reform consumer protection law, is brutal. Proving you were not grossly negligent when you acted in reasonable good faith on a message that referenced accurate internal company data is almost impossible, and the machine is not slowing down. The underlying technology is improving at a rate that outpaces every detection system currently deployed. The same research advances that make voice cloning more convincing make real-time deepfake video more realistic. The same large language models that write perfect phishing emails today will, within a short time frame, be capable of sustaining entire long-term relationships with fraud targets over months. The detection tools and the generation tools are locked in an escalating arms race. And historically, the generators have moved faster. The final lesson: the United Kingdom did something important in 2023. It mandated that banks reimburse victims of authorized push payment fraud, victims who were deceived through no negligence of their own into authorizing a transaction. Within months of that mandate taking effect, banks that had spent years insisting that fraud prevention at this level was essentially impossible suddenly discovered new technical capacities they had apparently been sitting on. Accountability changes behavior. Full stop. When the institutions carrying the infrastructure of fraud face genuine financial liability for the losses that infrastructure enables, the incentive structure of the entire system changes overnight. That is not a theory. That is the documented record of what happened in the United Kingdom. Most of the world has not followed. Several major telecom networks are deploying call authentication systems, cryptographic signatures that verify whether a call is actually originating from the number it claims to be from. When fully implemented, this eliminates caller ID spoofing as a tool. It is in deployment. It is not yet universal. AI detection tools are emerging. Systems that analyze voice patterns, typing rhythms, micro-expressions, and video artifacts to flag likely synthetic content. Some financial institutions are beginning to integrate them into their verification flows. These are real steps. They are not enough. Not yet. Which means the front line of this conflict, right now, today, is you. Not because that is fair. It is not fair. The burden should not fall on individuals to compensate for the failures of institutions that profit from the infrastructure these criminals exploit. But that is where we are. So here's what actually works. Make a code word with your family tonight. A word or phrase known only to the people you trust. Something that cannot be scraped from any public video, post, or recording. If someone calls in a panic, claiming to be someone you love and cannot say that word. You hang up. You call back on a number you know is real. It sounds almost insultingly simple for a problem of this technological sophistication. It is also one of the most reliable defenses that currently exists against voice clone fraud. Know the machinery. Studies consistently show that people who understand how AI fraud works are significantly harder to deceive. Not immune. Significantly harder. Awareness is not a marketing slogan. It is a measurable, documented friction point that slows the operation of the fraud machine. Every person who watches a video like this one and then explains it to their parents, their grandparents, their colleagues, becomes a node in the defense network. Be the person in your circle who explains how this works. Because the scam depends on you not knowing. And you know now. For most of human history, the hardest thing to fake was presence. The specific sound of a voice you loved. The face of someone who knew you. The warmth that exists in a real human connection. Those things were the anchors of trust. AI has made all of them fakeable. Not perfectly. Not yet. But well enough to empty retirement accounts. Well enough to bankrupt businesses. Well enough to make a grieving father wire his savings to a machine, while his real daughter sat 30 minutes away, completely unaware that the most human thing about their relationship had been weaponized against him. We built the most powerful communication infrastructure in the history of civilization. We did not build it with the assumption that it would become a weapon of mass deception. We are paying for that assumption now. The institutions that could move fastest have powerful economic incentives to move slowly. The institutions that want to move lack the jurisdiction, the resources, or the speed, which means the decision about what happens next belongs to the people who understand what is actually happening. Make the code word. Tell someone you love. The epidemic is real. The systems are failing. But the one thing the fraud machine has never successfully defeated is the moment a person looks at it clearly and decides they will not be next. And with that, the Black Book closes. Subscribe, and we will open the next page soon.